is Benji Cole, son of Al Cole from CBS Radio and host of the syndicated talk show, People of Distinction. A talk that gives you an in-depth view of some of the most dynamic, intelligent, and successful people on the planet. Run to our website, alcoleenterprises.com for more info. Email me through benji@alcoleenterprises.com if you'd like to get involved with what we have going. And as always, please continue to like and follow our broadcasts. People of Distinction is internationally syndicated solely due to the love and support that you all continue to give. We're available across all major distributors, and as long as you keep following, we're going to continue to put out the content. Now sit back and strap in, because on the line with us today, we have the impressive W. Richard Viall. Now we're going to be discussing his incredible book, The Next Medo-Persian Empire. It's Amazon, it's Barnes & Noble, but most importantly, check out his personal site, Medo-Persian-Empire.com. Gather more information on him, on his book, hyperlinks set up to take you to the purchasing pages. Man, I'm telling you, it's a one-stop shop. Again, that's Medo-Persian-Empire.com. And listen, Bill was brought to us by Citi of Books. So for writers out there listening in who have gone through their process creating their book, and now you need some assistance moving the book you just worked so tirelessly to create, head on over to citiofbooks.com and gather all of the ways that their fantastic team is well equipped to help you do just that. And listen, people, our guest today, Bill, he is a former officer who spent his entire career separating fact from fiction until about 44 years ago, when a simple traffic stop launched a lifelong investigation that challenges everything we think we know about the rapture and the final days. People, trust me when I tell you, man, this isn't theology from a pulpit. It is a prophetic profile built on logic, evidence, and of course, a cop's intuition. Sit back, strap in, have your notebooks ready, and understand that once we've concluded here today, you're going to need to pick up copies to fill in the gaps for yourself. Bill, first and foremost, welcome to the network, and thank you for being a guest. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. Anytime I have a good chance to talk about my book, it's a good day.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, listen, man, we're looking forward to talking about your book. I think you've done something remarkable here, and we're looking forward to uncovering a lot of the information that you gather within it. Let's start off, first and foremost, at the foundation, all right? Tell us a little bit more about this book and what to expect when we pick it up.
The book is a Christian end-times theology book written in plain language, and it's written that way so that the average reader can understand it. I tried not to use any grandiose or convoluted terms that would confuse people. That was always an issue when I would read other end-time books. They would be using terms that sometimes really don't mean much. For example, one of the terms they use a lot is the time of great tribulation. Well, not everybody knows what the writer means by that. Tribulation really means trouble, and it doesn't really specifically give you a period of time. I prefer to use a term much more specific, which is the 70th week of Daniel, which explains the last 7 years after the rapture. And allegorically, a week means 7 years. So the Bible has always used a week as a period of 7 years when it talks about the terms in the Old Testament.
Thank you very much for that, Bill. My follow-up question now, listen, the origin story behind this journey for you, I think, is something that we can't pass up, right? And it's something that I want to explore a little further, because as I mentioned in my opening, man, over 40 years ago, there was this routine traffic stop that changed the trajectory of your life. First and foremost, walk us through that process. What happened and why it did that, right? Like why it influenced this, like looking back with the wisdom of your career, what specific quality in that woman's demeanor or in her words turned a mundane enforcement action into a pivotal moment of spiritual curiosity for you?
I was an MP on Fort Dix at the time, and I pulled the lady over. She'd been weaving a little bit on the line, and I pulled her over, and I got to talking to her. I could obviously tell she was not drinking. She was just a poor driver. But she gave me something that looked like a credit card and something that looked like a check, basically. And it said, like, I can't remember exactly the words, but it was something like your check to salvation, something of that nature. And pretty much she was an evangelical Christian. She was she was talking to me about the Christianity and things of that nature. And then shortly after that, I got into reading end time books and looking for end time books. And Hal Lindsey's book, Late Great Planet Earth, was one of the books that really kind of set me on to investigating the last days even more. And in Scripture, there are three main places in the Gospel where Jesus specifically talks about the last days, and they are Mark 13, Matthew 24 and 25, and Luke 21. In Matthew 25, which is immediately after Jesus speaks about the last days, and of course this period of time this speech is called the Olivet Discourse, and of course they're very similar in all three different books. He talks about he says two different parables. He tells two different parables immediately after in Matthew 24, immediately after Matthew 24. And those two parables are the parable of the fig tree and the parable of the 10 bridesmaids. Lindsay's book was mainly based on the parable of the fig tree. And the fig tree, Jesus says when the fig tree returns, that'll be one of the signs, and then it'll be a generation after that before his final return. Of course, I'm paraphrasing all this, but Lindsay surmised that the fig tree was the nation of Israel. And back in the Old Testament, the fig tree is referred to as the nation of Israel, allegorically. He assumed that it would be a generation. Well, his theory on a generation was 40 years because the Jews wandered in the desert for 40 years. And, of course, Israel came back as a nation in 1948, and that really doesn't add up because the year 1988 passed us by. I got to investigating that more, and if you go back to Psalm 90, it says that a generation, a man's life is 70 years or 80 to be strong. So I'll let you do the math on that. So in in Matthew 24, Jesus also refers us back to the book of Daniel. And in the book of Daniel, in chapters 7, 8, and 9, Daniel stopped writing in the language of the day and started writing in Hebrew. And in the book of Daniel, or Daniel 7, 8, and 9, he gets a vision of the angel Gabriel, who comes to him along a river, which is actually, and I don't remember the name of the river, but it is actually in what we would consider the modern day Iran today. And that was during the Babylonian Empire, and he receives this vision of there's 4 things that he sees, but one is the prophecy of the ram and the goat. And the prophecy is an end-time prophecy that tells us about the reforming of the Medo-Persian Empire and how it will be a geopolitical area in the last days and be a sign of Jesus' return. The angel Gabriel says that the prophecy will happen in the last days. He says that 3 times in that scripture in chapter 7, 8, and 9. It also tells us about gives us a description of the Antichrist. It identifies allegorically the 4 kingdoms on earth at the end times. And it also gives us a timeline for the Messiah, which is a timeline of 70 weeks from the time that the second temple is rebuilt up into the 69th week, and the Messiah is cut off. So that leaves us 1 week left, known as the 70th week of Daniel.
Let's take an opportunity now and let's talk to the skeptics because, they're always out there. So let's talk to those skeptics, man. Like, if you were to present your case to someone that was skeptical of the Bible, like, what is the single strongest piece of evidence outside of Scripture that points to your theory?
Everything I state in the book is mainly, everybody says no one knows the day or the hour. Well, yeah, I don't 100% agree with that, but I think you might not know the day or the hour, but it might be a good idea to know the year and the month.
Yeah.
But my book is about the signs, okay? There are geopolitical signs, and there are going to also be interstellar signs. And if you don't believe the Bible, you should believe the signs. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you see the signs happening, it's pretty much an indicator that what I'm saying is right.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go on into Luke 21, he talks about the very last few days before the rapture, that there'll be a meteor shower, the stars will fall to the earth like figs falling from a fig tree. There'll be interstellar happenings. The sky will roll up like a scroll, and man will be worried, concerned. I don't know if I can get the right word out, but they'll be shocked because of the roaring of the seas. Well, what's the roaring of the seas? That's tsunami. So these signs, if they aren't there, then obviously I'm wrong. Okay? Mm-hmm. But I can kind of see things like that happening already. I could see interstellar signs happening already. And you can too, if you think about it. I don't know, where are you located? Are you in the Northeast?
No, sir. I'm in Southern California. I'm in Los Angeles.
Okay. All right. They've been seeing the Northern Lights as far south as Alabama lately, I think. Now, and they're also talking about the magnetic north shifting. That means that the Earth is shifting. The magnetic north has moved as far to, I think it's moving to the east, than in the last month than it has over the last 5 or 6 years. So we got something that's locking on to the Earth and affecting the Earth's atmosphere, or however you would say it. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. The book is about the signs, the geopolitical signs, which is the Medo-Persian Empire reforming, and the interstellar signs, which I talk about way more detail in the book. And I really don't want to go too deep into it because I don't have the book in front of me, and it was more about research than anything else.
Yeah. Well, listen, man, thank you very much for going into that. As we close out, I guess my final question here for you, Bill, is once your readers close, man, once they finish the book, what is the question that they should be asking themselves? Or if not a question, what is the takeaway that you want them to have?
I want them to be able to be aware, especially if you're Christian, of the signs leading up to the rapture and be ready for the rapture. You have to prepare for the rapture.
Yeah.
We're in the last days. And if you got to prepare yourself 2 ways. One, you have to prepare yourself mentally. In other words, you have to have faith. You have to have a lot of lamp. You have to have extra oil in your lamp, so to speak. You have to be ready for it to happen. And then and I believe the other way you need to prepare yourself is by being a prepper. To prepare yourself with extra supplies. I I did a whole chapter on how to prepare physically for hard times. If you have faith and you're starving, your faith is not going to hold up. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Or if you have faith and your family's starving or your family can't make it through, then you aren't going to hold up. And Paul tells the Thessalonians that there'll be a great falling away. And he also tells the Thessalonians that the Antichrist will be revealed before the rapture happens. My book identifies the Antichrist. In Revelations, it says that you should be able to, anybody with the ability to think should be able to identify the Antichrist. And my book does that. And so I did an entire chapter on how to prepare and how to have yourself ready for the last day.
People, I'm telling you, this is something that is incredibly gripping. You know what you got to do, man. Like, Bill has laid it out for us, man. He has guided us through his investigative work. And this is now the challenge for all of you. Okay, the challenge is now to take that investigative mindset you heard today and apply it to your own study, to the news, to the narratives that we too easily accept. The most powerful thing you can do is start asking, what's the evidence? Dive down that rabbit hole, man. Do your own research. And most importantly, make sure you pick up copies of this book because that's a perfect place to start. Again, it's Amazon, it's Barnes & Noble, it's Medo-Persian Empire.com. Pick up copies of this fantastic book today. Bill, this has been a true revelation, man, an absolutely wonderful discussion. Thank you once again for being a guest on People of Distinction.
Thank you.